Every year it's the same. So preparing for winter. Of course in the summer you neglect your vert, you know, there's other things to do involving wind and water and sunshine. But in the end, only vert does vert. So I start hiking around the beginning of December, building up strength, acclimating to the weather, dialing my gear in, just remembering what it's like to transition from rain to snow and back again. So that's what I'm doing today. First one for a while. Snow line's at about 900, so only a little bit of rain. But that's the hardest conditions, you know, rain through the snow. And if you're all set up for that, the rest is pretty easy. So, let's see. Got some grippers, got some coffee, got some GPS, some warm clothes, all sorts of good stuff. I'm gonna have a look up there now. See what we can see. Oh yeah, and a socket and a head torch. Indeed. Yeah, and now we've gotten into the snow. Really nice. So it's all about thermoregulation, as so often. So you'll see I have my zips wide open here. If it got a lot warmer, then I would actually turn these up, push my big long socks down and free my calves up. But as it is, so jacket open, only a thin little mid layer underneath, very wicking, and then the Gore-Tex hat off as soon as possible, gloves off. I like to start so that I'm just a little bit cold in the first 10 minutes or so, and similar sort of thermoregulation hourly cycle as in Hardangervidda, which basically means you work at 50 to 70% of your current maximum capacity for 50 minutes, 50, but you don't stop. And then in the 10 minutes per hour, or maybe it's 5 depending, but usually 10 and no more than 10, because after that you're going to start getting cold again. You stop, but everybody stops at the same time. Fiddle with gear, have a cup of coffee, look at the map, have a pee, whatever. But there's no stopping in the 50 minutes in between. Oh, look at all these awesome tracks here. I love the winter. I love the winter. And what I like to do though, particularly, is to follow the tracks backwards into where they came from. Much more interesting to me than where they're going, because I know they're going for drinks at the water, but I'm interested in where they lie up and what their habits are. Anyway, yes, back to thermoregulation. So do that. 50 minutes every hour, 10-minute rest at 50 to 70% of your perceived maximum capacity in the moment. Which means that when you're going uphill, or when you're tired, or if the pulk is heavy or whatever, you're going to have very, very differing ranges of what you're going to be able to actually achieve in those 50 minutes. And this is a mindset change that you must make. You must make the goal be variable. Unless you have some reason to be at a certain place at a certain time, in which case you have to do your planning differently. But generally, you would then have to figure out, okay, look carefully at the terrain and the steepness and all the rest of it, and do a proper calculation as to how much time will it take you to get to that objective if you do between 50 and 70% at 50 minutes in the hour. That's your proper planning. And then you can use things like Naismith's rule and how fast you can go. Like for instance, I can do, probably 600 vertical meters an hour without really thinking about it too much. So I use that, and about 5 kilometers an hour on the flat with a moderate load. It's all right. So I can then calculate where when I should be arriving at the objective. So that's what it's all about. Doing things thoughtfully, just like in diving, and then you can just relax and have fun and not have bad surprises. And you can have your 30% buffer that belongs to your mom or to someone who you might need to rescue, or it just belongs to you because it's way nicer to be not completely blown out, huffing and puffing and panting in tunnel vision because you're working too hard. So that's when you end up missing things, not being bothered to do proper avalanche pits because you're behind on time and silly things like this. So that's my thinking. And by the way, take the avalanche course every year. I do. I begin every winter season by doing a complete gear check and reacquainting myself with the most recent education materials on YouTube, usually like backcountry education or, official sources, as it were. And then I do some training on avalanche, rescue, and digging pits and stuff like this, also to remind myself what it actually means to shovel out a cubic meter of snow. Better be ready for that. And then this year, because I'm intending to do some more touring, I also obtained a airbag backpack. So I'm working on that, testing it out, and just being smart about stuff. So, up into the white. I like it. I like it a lot. Already forgot one thing. Sunglasses. I mean, I'm not going to need them today, but I didn't actually think about it. So, it goes on the little list of notes. List of notes. Things to remember. 10 hours in the terrain to get fluent again. And I just do basically 5 outings at this level before I even start thinking about performance or anything else like that. Just get out and do something known. So for me it's this thing, about 800 vert, or Langeneck saddle, about 500 vert meters. And just do it. What is it called? At least, yes, mindestens, at least 5 times before you're even considering, faster, slower, or anything else like that. Because your body also has to get used to the specific movements again, fire the neurons in the right way, stabilize your cardiovascular condition a bit from sitting on your butt all day. And what I do is, because I'm going to be spending this winter touring, is I already start patterning the body motion, so I don't come over like this. Rather, I be up tall, push my hips forward, and do the movements as close as I can to those that I'm going to be doing when I'm touring up here on skis or a split board, carrying a pack. So getting into good habits right away is the plan. Hip When not in use, I put my gloves here inside my sleeves, which does a few things. One is it keeps them nice and dry. 2, I know where they are. And 3, it keeps the pack off my shoulders a little bit. And yeah, better than clipping them off, getting them full of snow, or having to go into my backpack to get them. I just put them in here. Works really well. So, let's go up, 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 up. This is good. Elevation, my friends. Elevation. It's cool to watch these seeps forming up because it tells me a little bit about what it's doing down there in the gorge. I'm really looking forward to that. Yes, yes, yes. Can't wait. Do some nice ice climbing without getting in trouble. Yeah, I like it. Not too far from the house. Yeah, I think this winter maybe I'll do you guys a few little bits and pieces on kind of how to use different styles of ropes in the backcountry. You know, from just like a maybe 15-20 meter piece of 6mm and a single locking carabiner, you can already do a lot. To, you know, how to build snow anchors and balakovs and all that kind of good stuff. Tell me sometimes a bit also what you'd like to see. I'm really quite open to making a few things. So a couple things we have planned for the winter. Big, if Corona lets us, of course, big camping trip into Langenthal. So essentially go in there with a little pilk sled full of comfortable tent and sleeping bag and gas and coffee and food, and probably take my Namach up there and go and hang out up there for a couple of days, tour around on the split board and get used to that. So that's on the cards. February time, hopefully, visit to Finland, northern Finland near Levi, some deep cold, maybe some ice fishing, cool stuff like that. And yeah, and of course the wing. I want to learn this sling wing. You guys who know me will know, guys and gals, guys, it's a gender neutral term for me. You'll know how much I like wind propelled sports. So I've got a sling wing. It's really designed for foiling in the water, but I reckon it would be pretty good on the snow. Being inflatable, it may be pretty cool as a part of a shelter setup. So we'll be working on that a little. And just, yeah, skiing some POW. Depends on Corona, but Zugspitze is in Germany. And there's a ski tour track up the German side of it. So it's good enough for me. Get in the little car camper, drive up there the night before, get a good early start, and get on it. No reason not to. Woohoo! So yeah, all that stuff to come. And here's our little path up to Staffel. So I'm going to have a look. Woo! Fun. So I'm out here in the snow today, looking at a few little tracks here, and also just doing a bit of conditioning. And I want to ask you guys the question around capacity. So you know I talk a lot about 50 to 70% of the current maximum perceived capacity. So if I were to sprint now in this terrain, in this condition, that would be 100%. So I say, you know, and not just me, but the principle is that you stay in the 50 to 70% range of that, so that you have some buffer for emergencies and whatever else. So that comes from technical diving and various other high reliability situations. But now, what when you're tracking? Here's the question for you. How much of your capacity is for the track? How much capacity is for the buffer? Hint, at least 30%. And how much, therefore, is the capacity that you have left for moving through the terrain, especially when the terrain might be intense or, inimical to life. So this then is an interesting topic. It explains some of the differences in the tracking protocols and procedures between sort of search and rescue, where the time is short, fugitive tracking, where the prey doesn't want to get caught, the quarry, and also time is short, you have to close the gap. Military, of course, where you're definitely in a situation inimical to life, and also kind of all of those compared with animal tracking. So it's very easy to get what we call track trapped or track stricken, where you're so into following that you lose all concept of the surroundings. And so therefore we like this zoned, structured situational awareness, where you do look up and look around and segment the view and go far, medium, short, to make sure that you maintain your general situational awareness. And your situational awareness actually starts with your body, with you. How are you? Hydrated? How far from base camp are you? How much endurance have you got left? All that stuff, then your buddies and so on. So it's an interesting thought. And it also provides you with motivation to go and get fitter, do some vert, baseline the environment, spend some time out in the field, so that this doesn't tax you and you have a much better ability to actually pay structured attention to the track line. Right? Interesting to see what happened here. You can tell lots about what you're going to find up on the mountain, who's there, little kids on the way down, that's good, and so on and so forth. This morning we had a little snowfall since then. So yeah, paying attention in the bigger scheme of things is the name of the game. Dressing appropriately for the field you're going to be in, usually having a couple of people with you, and also rotating the tracking duty. So you'll have one tracking and one navigating if you're on a team of 2, and if it's a team of 3, you have other options. So there, that's what we're saying, and here's where we're going. Up the hill. I can do about 600 meters an hour at the moment in a comfortable way, so this 50-60% effort, that's pretty nice to get up here into some snow. Woohoo! Look at this. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All these different treads. That's a running shoe. That's an approach shoe. That's a running shoe. That's an approach shoe. I actually know most of these sole prints, so I actually know the boots that these belong to. And I can tell how long ago they were here. And I can tell, for instance, from this one, something about the temperature gradient over the day, which is that it's gotten warmer. but that it was relatively grippy when they stepped in. So very little skidding along here, which you would usually see if they were here in warmer temperatures. Yes. A little bit foggy, which is very nice. Yeah, I like it. Yes, I do. So timing is everything, right? Up there I can see that there's a little breeze coming up over that ridge, and I'm just nice and warm and comfortable now, but I also know that as soon as I go over that ridge we're going to have wind. So therefore, now is the time to put my extra layer on and then maybe open my vents a bit more or do something else, but I do not want to be stood up there in the cold taking my wind shell off, getting my bag and all that stuff. So it's a little bit about anticipation as well. Yes, it is. Anticipation. So what does tracking have to do with snowpacks? Well, it's very, very similar concept. It's about understanding what's actually happening, and it's really quite good to get out in the beginning of the season and look at the snowpack and see how it's composed and what's going on, so that you can be clear about how well it's adhering to the substrate and so on. Last winter we had just a huge, great big pack on warm ground, no chance for it to consolidate, and so we had massive avalanche danger for a long time. Here we already have 2 layers, so just like with tracking, you want to understand what happened. So what we do is we just get into these layers a little bit. You can do it with your hand or, you know, whatever, but just kind of get a nice clean cut. And already you can see here there's 2 different layers. There's this one, which gives very little resistance, and then there's this one, which is probably a bit rain soaked from today, where the resistance is actually quite a lot more. So already here in this little snowpack here, we're seeing enough of an indication that I have to just look at things a bit carefully. You can see it's actually quite a strong layer, this top one. But as it happens, this will probably now, with a bit of warmth tomorrow, just all consolidate on top of each other. But that also is a tracker mindset, is understanding not just the sign, right, but actually what it means. So there you have it. Yes, that's what tracking has to do with avalanche science. It's quite funny actually, you know, in Europe people are like, oh my god, it's dark outside, you're walking with a head torch. And we had quite a funny incident, Joe and I, some years ago. We were on the Zugspitze, we were training for running a mountain marathon, and yeah, the snow came down and we were all fine, and you know, we were on grippers and proper gear and all that. So we came down to, but it was dark, I mean, but we're used to it because, you know, we're from Scotland and there it's kind of dark at 3 p.m. already, so you always start in the dark and end in the dark. So for us it was just like, oh well, put your head torch on like any other time and get on with it. But